Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we're going to be talking about The White Lotus Season 3, Episode 8, Amir Fatih. This is the Season 3 finale. I am very excited to get into this. There's a lot to talk about. This was an oversized finale. Also, I recommend there's a little bit thing, a little bit after the credit, like the inside the episode thing that they normally do with show creator Mike White, where he talks about some of the things that happened at the end, why they happened, and kind of a little bit, and maybe even some hints at the next season of this show. Um, so, for those that don't know and haven't been watching, this was my first season of White Lotus, which obviously has definitely encouraged me to go back and watch the other two seasons. Now that this one's over, I definitely will go back and check that out. Overall, I'm pretty satisfied with the finale. I think that as I think about some of the decisions that Mike White made with some of these stories, I didn't need this to like be a I didn't I think the opening makes it feel like there's gonna be a lot more death and in this show, and there's some of that for sure. And but I think what there is the most in this show is about some of these people um ultimately getting what they deserve, like how their lives would really kind of happen. I like that it doesn't go into like a fairy tale ending, but it doesn't get super grim either. Like this just feels that because of their own actions and the consequences of those actions, people are kind of just at the point where, yeah, that's usually what would happen. Like, not everyone can have a tragic Thailand vacation, right? Which is obviously kind of what we were. I don't know if we were hoping for a resolution on everything. I actually appreciate that the show doesn't feel like it needs to tie every little thing up. I like that it leaves some things open ended, and I appreciate that it just leaves it up to kind of like my imagination as to, like, what's going to happen with these characters, and how will these lives continue. I gotta say, great performances. Jason Isaacs, great performance. Carrie Coon, just over the top. Walton Goggins, I think those are my three MVPs for the episode. They're just so good at their craft, and really bringing the emotion, bringing everything that I feel like this show needed. Now we're gonna get into spoilers. If you have not seen the episode, make sure to go check it out because I will go into every little detail. Let's start with the Ratliffs. I'll just kind of jump through their story because even though some of their stuff is intertwined, their story is a little bit separated from everything, really. So we wake up at the temple with Piper and Lachlan. Obviously, Piper had been told by Lachlan that maybe he would want to come stay with her. As they come back to the hotel, she kind of really shut them down with that idea. And this is because at this point, Lachlan feels like he's kind of on his own, right? He's on the outs with Saxon. He's on the outs with Piper now, um, which feels like it's just ripe for tragedy. The Ratliffs do reunite for breakfast. Everybody comes back home, or I guess everybody comes back. I think one of the things that really I found very interesting was that there is this idea that Piper, uh, we thought that maybe she was different from her family because she was trying to change her life, and that's not at all what ended up happening, which I find very interesting. I think that Piper eventually ends up telling her parents that she doesn't want to give up the good life. She doesn't want to give up all the things. She made an error in judgment. Her mom, obviously, that's exactly what she wanted. So the reason that she encouraged her to stay is that so that she would realize that on her own. So I think that worked. Victoria, I mean, she knows. Parker Posey's been really killing it this episode. I feel like she didn't have as much time to shine on the finale, but overall, her plan worked, and she realized we get to see that all the rat lives except for Lachlan are very materialistic, and they feel like they need that lifestyle. Lachlan and Saxon are still a little bit on the outs. They very awkward conversation. We do see a moment where Saxon goes to, where Saxon goes to the beach, talks to Chelsea one last time. And I feel like he was really trying to change for her, but then ultimately when Rick came back, and we'll get to their story in a minute, when Rick came back, they knew that he realizes that that's never going to happen for him. Tim does talk to Lachlan about asking him the same thing that he's kind of been asking his whole family, like, could you live without the money? And he's like, yeah, I think I would be okay without the money. So out of everyone, now Tim realizes that Lachlan is the only one that could live without their fortune, and with the situation that they have going on. So Tim starts gathering those poison fruit, the poison seeds, which Pam, damn it, why did you confirm the way how the how this poison is used? um we have dinner time, and this is dinner time for everyone, which is, the Ratliff family goes to have dinner. Tim is planning to use those seeds to poison his family. He sends in, he asks the one of the servers to get cocktails, um, but ultimately when they go back to the room, Tim prepares the pina coladas, which is a very interesting poison delivery device. But he chooses against it. Like, as they are about to start drinking, he freaks out, and nobody ends up drinking it. Unfortunately, Tim doesn't clean the blender, so there's still some of the powder seeds there. The next morning, Lachlan, he makes one of those shakes because he doesn't go to breakfast with everyone, and he ends up drinking one of the poison, drinking pretty much a poison smoothie. Now they really made us think that, as the rest of the family except Tim go to breakfast, they made us think that Lachlan was gonna die. Like, I wrote on my notes, oh, Lachlan dead, and of course it was gonna be Tim who was gonna find them, right? Um, we end up ultimately coming back. Lachlan ended up throwing up the poison, I guess, in time, and he's not dead. But ultimately, the Ratliff, I think that their fate was not to die at the White Lotus, but was actually an even worse fate for all of them except maybe Lachlan, which was to go back and have to confront this new life without money, without power, without any of the things that they are used to, that this season has proven that they need, otherwise they are, that they can't really live without, which is, it leaves it very open ended, but I think it's a very interesting, like, they are kind of getting what they deserve, because they deserve to go back and have to face that hardship that they've never had to face in their life. So I'm pretty satisfied with their story. Let's talk about the girls. We'll leave Rick probably until the end because his story kind of intertwines the most with some of the other ones. So Jacqueline, in the morning, as they're about before they head out to breakfast, she goes to apologize to Lori, but she's still pretty sleepy. Lori did stay up and hang out, right? Um, as they go to dinner, like, we don't see a lot of the girls throughout the day except when there's time for dinner, and dinner was probably the best for them. They throughout this season we've seen the girls not really fall apart, but they've had very, very much a big conflict between all of them, right? Their lives are different, their personalities are different. Do they question even if they're still friends? But I love the way that this concludes, that they all realize that despite all their differences and how separate their lives have gone, that they are friends. And like, and Lori breaks down during dinner saying that she's tried, pouring everything into her work. She's tried to have a family, like the other girls, but ultimately it doesn't work, right? She can't be like Kate, she can't be like Jacqueline, but she is happy. And honestly, I mean, it felt very genuine that she was happy, that she still had those friends and that support system, even if it's not fulfilling in her everyday life. She's still very, very happy, as they all are. So the girls, I think, ended up having a good time. I'll bring them back up one more time, but this is really, to me, this is kind of where their story is over. They are involved in some of the later story, but it's really more on the periphery, because the Hollingers wanted a picture before with Jacqueline. She is a celebrity. They wanted a picture before they left the hotel. All right, let's move on to Belinda. Belinda is obviously she's got this option of, like, this money, right, from Gary. which I'll also talk about Gary kind of closing out their stories. Belinda and Zion, they're having breakfast, which Ponchai goes to say hi. I really like Ponchai. I think he's a really nice dude. I feel like the show really ends up getting him. He probably gets done a little bit dirty. We'll talk about why in a second. Zion and Belinda go see Gary or Greg or whatever you want to call him, depending on what season. They asked for more money. They asked for $5 million instead of the 100,000 that Gary had initially offered, which is quite a leap. But as Zion is doing the pitch, Belinda actually plays hardball in a very interesting way. I thought that was really fun. So throughout dinner, Belinda and Zion are just kind of waiting for Gary to answer. Ultimately, overnight, she does end up getting her money, and we kind of get back to where we met him in this stress appointment, right? In the meanwhile, Belinda goes to talk to Pornchai to tell them that she's got to leave Thailand. Then we have the shootout and everything that happens. But ultimately, they just both also get to leave. I do hope, in my mind, I feel in my heart, and just like in my, I guess, my head canon for the show, Belinda does eventually come back for Pornchai once so they can launch their business. That's just kind of my hope for the future. But just like with the rat lifts, it is kind of left unknown. And I just feel like that works. Um, all right, I think that I'm gonna do Guy Talk and Rick at the same time because their stories kind of collide towards the end. So we see Rick at the hotel with Frank, who Frank's still partying. Man, Sam Rockwell coming in halfway through the season is such a gift. Really really cool. In the meanwhile, Guy Talk or Valentin realizes that Guy Talk knows about what they did. He knows about that. His friends are the ones that came in and did the robbery. So Guy Talk is very conflicted for multiple things. Should he rat out Valentine? Is that gonna make him, get a promotion, which will eventually impress Mook, which will also, like, that's what he wants, right? He wants to impress Mook. He wants to be on the good with his job, but he also wants to stand by his own beliefs. And I don't think he can have it all, unfortunately. And he's gonna have to make a choice. Um, at dinner, uh, as the Hollanders arrive back the next day, we're gonna get into all that. But during dinner, I think Rick comes to the resolution that he's finally ready to have a good life with Chelsea, which is, I thought it was gonna be great. It may not work out that way. Uh, Chelsea does explain the title of the episode, which is Amor Fati, and it just means to embrace your fate, which is very interesting because ultimately their fate may not be. Chelsea's been on the verge of dying throughout the whole season, and unfortunately, those were pretty heavy foreshadowing. So the Hollanders are back. The owners of the hotel are back because they're going to take a picture with Jacqueline before she leaves. Jim confronts Rick at breakfast about what just happened because he's still there. He's pretty much trying to kick him out of the hotel. Uh, Rick goes to look for Amrita, which is the person that she had been kind of helping move past this trauma. And I feel like, and even Mike White talks about this at the end, like, if Amrita had not been busy with Zion at the time, maybe none of the stuff that happened afterwards would have happened. So Rick, he sees an opportunity, he ends up shooting Jim um, while taking the picture. So this is where the girls kind of still there, Jacqueline and Lori and Kate. They were there when Jim got shot, and they just kind of ran away. Fabian falls into the water, very funny. But yeah, it is revealed that Jim is Rick's dad, which was definitely something that I was thinking. Um, as Rick takes out the bodyguards, uh, Guy Talk, we see him sprinting with the gun. Rick kills the guards, but then they shoot Chelsea. So Chelsea's dead. And then one of the body we saw the beginning of the season. I think that was just one of the bodyguards floating down, because the way he fell and where he fell feels like that's what would have, because they made it seem like it might have been Belinda, right, or somebody else, because it was somebody with long hair, but obviously we couldn't really tell who it was. Ultimately, Guy Talk kills Rick, and like he struggles, but he ends up killing him. So we see that Guy Talk becomes part of the security for Sarita. So he kind of gets the job that he wanted to impress the girl that he wanted, but he had to put his Buddhist values on the line for that. So ultimately, maybe he's getting what he thinks he wants, but he had to sacrifice part of who he is for that. So that's also very interesting. And then of course Rick, if he had just left things alone, he could have had a good life with Chelsea. But it is a tragic story that, when you're looking for revenge, that'll come back and hurt the ones that you care for, probably. So, yeah, it's just a classic story. We do get to see at the end that Frank is in the temple, so hopefully things are looking up for Frank, and he's able to get back his sobriety and get back on a good path. So, yeah, I mean, ultimately, the people that died um, were Chelsea and Rick, who are kind of like these. It sucks for them because they never really had the chance to live in the relationship. I mean, Chelsea was just so in love with Rick. It was crazy that this man would throw everything away for revenge. But that is definitely the tragedy of this show. Um, and then I just feel like I'm very excited to check out the other seasons of The White Lotus. I really enjoy this. I don't know if everybody's gonna feel as satisfied. I am somebody that really appreciates just the story and not having to have everything explained or put in place. Like I don't need that. I'm also very happy with the performances. I would say my favorite story was definitely the Rick storyline. I just think that one had the most going on. Um, and then ultimately, I really do hope that Belinda comes back for Porn Chai because look out for my boy. Uh, anyways, there you have it. We are here, the end of the White Lotus. So let me know, what did you think of this season? What did you think of this finale? Is there anything else you would have liked to have seen? All that stuff, leave it in the comments. So as always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. And stay tuned because we have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye bye.